In the final analysis, it's about a young nation. Malaysia achieved independence in 1957, and this was only happening in the 80s. It's about a young nation coming together and also made up of different races. It's about sports which unite them all. Mr. Donfried also alluded to that, and I think one of the most, notable sports diplomacy was the ping pong diplomacy between US and China. And it's about desire to prove something as a nation when you go and play as a Malaysian team. It's about social cohesion, which is one of the most important issue of culture. So social cohesion involves building shared values and communities of interpretation, reducing disparities in wealth and income, and generally enabling people to have a sense that they are engaged in a common enterprise, facing shared challenges, and that they are members of the same community. While waiting for the conference to end, I note that it was I asked somebody outside, and I note that it was a conference on Africa and building relationship with EU. I may be wrong, but perhaps that was it before. So I thought that was also interesting. As I began my career in diplomacy, I remember our Prime Minister then, Dr. Mahathir, who's very strong in his South-South cooperation, and he made a lot of overtures to Africa. I remember at that time we opened a lot of our embassy in Ghana, Zimbabwe, Guinea. Where else do we have? South Africa. How many? Yeah, we have a lot in Africa. 15, I think, in Africa, our embassies. So this is part of our diplomacy in reaching out to the developing South, the G77 countries. And it's good to come back here and listen again that, further collaborations are being made, for example, from Africa and also together with the EU. Now, ladies and gentlemen, actually this is my third time here, and it seems that every year I seem to come here, Mr. Donfried. In 2022, I was here in November or October, around the same time, with my foreign minister then. So at that time we were talking about social cohesion as part of the cultural and part of culture, and this is part of our cultural diplomacy abroad. And last year I was here with the Minister for Tourism for Sarawak, Borneo. Are you aware of Borneo? Yes, yeah? Were you the one dancing last year? Okay. We had a good time last year outside. We brought the culture troupe, and then they performed some ethnic, I think, music and ethnic dance, and I thought that was very good that everyone joined in as well. So today we brought to you, ladies and gentlemen, a movie, and of course, as Mr. Donfried has already informed, some food after the movie, just to make it a fun occasion. Now, before I go to the movie, Mr. Donfried touched about my background on maritime delimitation. And I would say very much that negotiating itself is part of cultural diplomacy. When you negotiate sometimes with your neighbors, they may be your neighbors and maybe your closest neighbors, but their culture is also very different. So the way you maneuver things during your negotiation, it becomes a part of intercultural communication. Things that you take for granted the way you would in your country on how to express certain things or certain lines would be maybe offensive if another country feels it so. So that is part of diplomacy as well. For example, in dealing with South China Sea, we negotiate with 11 countries. So 11 countries all, no matter how small a country or how big a country is one voice. So do not be afraid, even though you're a small country, when you go to negotiation, you have the territoriality and the sovereignty that you bring with you. So then that's another part of cultural diplomacy, because when you deal with 11 countries, again, you're talking about another 11 kind of culture. So intra-culture or interculture then is very important. For example, we deal with 10 ASEAN countries, and ASEAN countries, they also have different disparity between economics, development, and social affluence, and also you can't be seen to be thinking that you are a better country than another country. So that's a lot of cultural diplomacy. I would say culture is different and the diplomacy is very important, okay? And that's why one of the reasons we went to Africa was because we believe one country, one vote. And that's why Africa is very important to us, especially when we place ourselves at the platform of United Nations, where we need to get the support and the votes. At that time, we were going against the idea of a very challenged idea of globalization in the year 2000. So in South China Sea, we have 10 different countries, and then we have China. China is very, very big country. And we have Malaysia, which is small, another country which is smaller, but we all go, and I always remember that we always keep reminding each other during the meeting, you are one voice, and each country is its own sovereignty. And sovereignty is something you cannot just take from another country. It's very important when you present a country, because you represent the sovereign nation of one of the nation of the world. So I thought I'd like to share that with you. Now this film actually, as it was mentioned, was inspired by the glories of the Malaysian national football team. Now, when you say Malaysian football team, please don't compare it to the Bundesliga, okay, or the English football. Yeah, again, like I say, we're a small country, but in 1980s we were actually quite strong. We used to, I remember in a speech when the president of Korea came to, I think it was like 7 years ago, to Malaysia, and then Mike King was saying, last time we used to beat South Korea in the 80s, but now you beat us. So tides have changed. But basically, this is actually inspired by the Malaysian national football team, which successfully entered the 90s Summer Olympics, 1980. So the film itself was released on 28 January in 2016. As of November 2019, Ola Bola is currently ranked the 10th highest grossing Malaysian film of all time. Ola Bola means, anyone coming from the Spanish speaking, Ola is like hi, bola is ball. So like, hello, football, So it won Best Theme Song at the Taiwan Film Festival 2016, won Special Jury Award. It won a few awards in the Malaysian Film Festival itself, but one notable award was the Special Jury Award. Why? Because it won the Special Jury Award for the national unity, for the fact that this movie reflects conversation about national unity. So what is it all about? You will watch it, but I'll just like to tell you a bit of a summary. In 1980, the team practices for the upcoming pre-Olympic matches, with this Captain Chow serving as the interim coach until a Mr. Harry Mountain takes over. So he comes from a coach from outside, maybe the UK or the US. And meanwhile, there is also an aspiring sports commentator who is Captain Chow's friend, and his name is Rahman, and he practices with his mentor. His dream is to become a football mentor, really saying it out, this ball comes from here, from the corner and everything. So he's an upcoming budding commentator. So Harry Mountain revises the current formation in the group, whereby a certain Mr. Eric, who was a reserve goalkeeper, becoming a striker. So having not used to this new formation, the team has problem. The team has problem and everyone's disobeying the coach order. And the team soon found out that it was unable to win even friendly matches. Soon Eric and a fellow striker have a falling out over the jersey number 10. Both wanted to wear number 10. And then, after a few things that happened, the Captain Chow assumed responsibility for this embarrassing performance and quits the team. I'll just tell you up to that. After that, you will see it for yourself. But what is more important about this movie is that throughout the movie, we came face to face with the personal challenges of each players. We also see that the team comes from different races and ethnicity. In the final analysis, it's about a young nation. Malaysia achieved independence in 1957, and this was only happening in the 80s. It's about a young nation coming together and also made up of different races. It's about sports which unite them all. Mr. Donfrey also alluded to that, and I think one of the most, notable sports diplomacy was the ping pong diplomacy between US and China. And it's about desire to prove something as a nation when you go and play as a Malaysian team. It's about social cohesion, which is one of the most important issue of culture. So social cohesion involves building shared values and communities of interpretation, reducing disparities in wealth and income, and generally enabling people to have a sense that they are engaged in a common enterprise, facing shared challenges, and that they are members of the same community. Here we can see an example in sports teams where everyone is working together to win the game or get to the championship. So on that note, let us stop here and watch Ola Bola. Thank you very much.